For more on this high-level meeting, let's bring in our good friend Anthony Chan, former Chief Economist, JPMorgan Chase. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you.
Let's just start with this. Why 5 years? I mean, that's a problem in itself. We've got a crisis with the COVID. We had a crisis in Ukraine. Now you got food and oil, inflation, and they haven't met in 5 years?
Well, you have to realize that certainly over the last 5 years, there was not a lot of global cooperation. And in fact, I'm sure the United States had something to do with that. But I think that now the climate is changing. At least there's an effort. Unfortunately, despite the effort that may exist, there are some challenges. And as you mentioned, Phil, you have the situation with food, where 30% of all the wheat is at risk coming from Ukraine and Russia. That's not being circulated out there into the rest of the world. So there is clearly some challenges that we have to deal with. Fertilizers in short supply. Many challenges are out there.
The World Trade Organization, in its initial formation, was to create sort of a fair and equitable trade relationship among countries in the organization. And I can't help but think that why aren't they talking more about this? Because this is the one time we got supply chain issues, we got chip shortages, we've got food shortages. It just seems to me that this should have been addressed earlier.
I think that it should have been addressed, and I think that all the countries are working, they're doing their best to try to ease some of those supply chain disruptions. And in fact, we are seeing some signs. If you look at some supply chain indices out there, we are seeing some signs that we are seeing some improvement, but we still have a long ways to go. And right now, we know that all this was threatened by the COVID-19 pandemic. And right now, one of the big challenges for the World Trade Organization is to find out whether or not we can do something to allow these poorer countries to have access to vaccines, maybe produce the vaccines at home, and not have to worry about these patents. So there are many challenges out there they have to deal with.
Some of the key issues, climate change and overfishing. And you mentioned a couple other ones as well. Give me one that you think they will be successful at addressing in the near term.
Well, I'm hoping that on the vaccine front, there'll be some progress. I'm not sure it'll be a complete success because there are many powerful forces that are not completely on board with allowing countries to go ahead and produce the vaccines and not have to worry about the patents. I'm also hopeful that we'll make some progress on the overfishing, because we need to make sure that the fishing areas have sustainable policies, because if we overfish with all the subsidies that are taking place, then over the longer term, we're going to have some issues. So we really have to prepare not just for today, but for the future.
We talked a little bit about the markets earlier, Anthony. I know you watch this stuff closely, but does the WTO, could they have a role in fighting inflation, which it seems like almost every country is dealing with this problem?
Absolutely, because remember that if you ease some of the pressures on food shortages, then perhaps prices don't have to rise as much. There are 23 countries today that are imposing export restrictions of some sort on food, and when that happens, and food hoarding is going to take place in some countries, that tends to put upward price pressure on food, and that reverberates into other type of products. So the World Trade Organization, by trying to encourage countries to trade food more freely and certainly not hoard it and not allow prices to go up, can do something, given the fact that food and energy prices are so important in this surge that we've seen in inflation.
Let's talk China and the U.S. Relationships haven't been great lately. Let's be honest. Can the World Trade Organization bring the two a little closer together?
I think so, because if they somehow try to promote or encourage more trade agreements, I think that countries that are involved in trade agreements by nature tend to be a lot friendly towards each other. Historically, over the last 100 years, when you see countries acting unfriendly, when it comes to trade policy, that's when you get most conflict. If you have beneficial trade agreements, that in itself generates greater cooperation between countries. So to the extent that the World Trade Organization can be instrumental in making that possible, I think it will improve relationships between all countries, but more importantly, among the two largest economies in the world, namely China and the United States.
Right. Real quick, I want to just slightly change gears. We talked about the Fed earlier. I know you follow the economy very much. All this talk of 50 and 75 basis points. Your thoughts on what the Fed needs to do in the next couple of days here?
I think the Federal Reserve has to break out of the 50 basis point mentality and try to raise rates a bit more aggressively. I would love to see 100 basis points. I think that perhaps might be too aggressive for the Fed. But at the very least, I would love to see them on Wednesday raise rates by 75 basis points, just so they can send a strong message to the financial markets that they are really serious about fighting inflation.
Right. Well, the financial markets are having a stroke as we speak. Anthony Chan, good to see you. Former Chief Economist, JPMorgan Chase. Always good to see you, my friend.
Same here.
Turning our focus to the